Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching this monthly in-depth forecast for AgSouth and Ag Carolina. All right, here's the plan for today's forecast video. I want you to just take a good look at this awesome snapshot from yesterday on Monday the 28th of just the way things are, and I'm going to come back to this in a second, but here's the layout. I got to talk about some near-term drought issues. Have these been well forecast by us a month ago? No. I need to talk to you about why. Secondly, we're going to move this out to the month of May looking at 3 different models, and then I'm going to press this all the way through summer and even into the hurricane season with some of the new long-range information. You're going to get a ton of long-range data out of this. I'm going to tell you what needs to happen and what doesn't need to happen to make these models correct. That's our plan as we go forward here. Now, the first image you've been staring at here is just yesterday as the sun was getting ready to set. And this has been interesting. We've been able to squeeze out thunderstorms along the coast, good sea breeze stuff. But overall, dominant high pressure has just lived off the southeast coast. And as a result, we've been opening up the moisture here to huge storms, or way up here into the Midwest. And by the way, yesterday's storms were interesting. Can you see that right in through here? There's kind of discoloration. That was from a dust storm that came out of New Mexico on Sunday. So fascinating pattern, but what it's been doing to the southeast needs to be discussed. By the way, we're going to talk at the end about ocean temperatures. That line that you see going across the image there, that's just the sunset. So we switch over to infrared, and you can see the Gulf Stream right there. Really interesting to kind of pick out that feature. But back to the bigger ideas. This map and the next one I'm going to show you will tell you the influence of the southeastern ridge. What is it? It's the last 7 days of hail. And what I want you to see is how much has been in the southern plains. Now, why is that important? Because for the last 7 days, in fact, let's take this back to a whole U.S. view. We have had some places in the southern plains where the moisture has made it back, where we've had 10 times the normal rainfall, major flooding. Whereas we have gone over very dry at times in the southeast. Now, the reason for this has been the placement of a big subtropical ridge here, almost shutting down the moisture into Florida especially. But zooming in there on the southeast, there are numerous very productive areas in AgSouth and Ag Carolina territory that have missed out on almost all the moisture coming in through. And it's not just been the last 7 days. You go back 2 weeks and we see that our recent drought scenario has gotten pretty bad. Now, why this is important is if we see this continuing, not just for another week, but for another 3, 4, 5 weeks, then we have a major story in our hand. And I'll be honest with you, we knew we were going to have halfway decent planting. We knew things were going to open up. It didn't seem like it was going to be just closed off with so much rain. But to be this dry, our longer range models did not see this very well. So I want to let you know this was a bit of a misstep in the forecast I gave you a month ago. Now, what did we miss? We missed this. The models really didn't pick up well on these 3 epicenters of high pressure in the month of April. This shoved the jet stream really far to the north. And this high pressure cell at times keeps sliding over to Florida, opening up the Gulf, pushing that moisture all the way back past the Cap Rock into the mountains of the west. And if it's there, it's not over the southeast. In fact, you can make an argument that if you go from the whole southern tier of the United States, west coast to east coast, every time you look at the forecast, someone's going to be dealing with ridging. Is it California, is it Texas, or is it North and South Carolina? And that's a question we're going to ask ourselves again at the end of this video. Right now, though, it's definitely the Carolinas and Georgia. Because today, we've got this. That is the Bermuda High. And it's just living here, opening up Gulf moisture back into Texas. And as a result, we're going to see this pattern as it slowly evolves. Well, for much of the next week, it's going to just look like it just did. But out into week 2, if we look at the next 15 days, the atmosphere gets a little blocky. Now you're going, what does that mean? Well, see that ridge? See this ridge? See this broader ridging here? This is a symptom of the atmosphere losing its momentum. And it's going to give us something, a little cutoff low to be talking about, not this week, but next week. This week, the cutoff low, the big one, is going to live here, absolutely soaking parts of the southern plains. Much of the Mid-South is drier, and this rain you see here is coming in this weekend. There's a chance of it, and then about 10 to 11 days from now. So I'm going to get into all of the details on when that's going to get here very soon. But this is what our pattern looks like in the near term. So here we go. Over the next 7 days, the main story is going to be Texas and Oklahoma while we are drier. In fact, just take a look at how dry it's going to be. We see most of Georgia, South Carolina, getting in North Carolina, barely grabbing a chance at getting more than a half inch. Some places may not pick up anything. Now, rain in Florida, desperately needed, but this is going to be relatively dry. And the reason we have to talk about this is because as of late, we've had this area through the month of April showing up drier. There's been more rain in the northern parts of Alabama, Georgia, and the western parts of the Carolinas. But, to be honest, a lot of this area is heavily forested. Our ag is farther to the south and east. Now, that's not necessarily true for most of North Carolina, but it is for Georgia and South Carolina. Florida's been extremely dry. And I want you to think about this map later on in my forecast video, specifically that. Can you tuck that away in the back of your head for a moment? Because that's not only going to be important to our long-range analogs, which I'm going to show you those as well, but it's also important to our current drought monitor. Now, the new drought monitor is being made right now. It'll be released on Thursday. Go to droughtmonitor.unl.edu later this week and you'll be able to see it. I imagine we're not going to see much relief in our drought, but I am expecting it to change a lot here. But the reality is that currently the drought monitor is double in area that it was last spring at this time. And that's what's informing us about this upcoming summer forecast, which I'm about to get to here in just a few moments. Soil moisture-wise, we're saturated and soaked here, but there's pockets of dryness there. Florida, in throughout Georgia, North and South Carolina that need to be filled in because that dryness is going to be critical when we think about where this pattern is going to land us about 11 days from now. In 11 days, I'm watching for this. Big ridge with a cutoff low. That's called a high over low pattern. It's going to evolve into this out of an omega block. Now watch this. I'm going to go back in time. And this is where the omega block begins. See, Wednesday, Thursday of this week, that little trough sneaking through here soaks the area, but we're protected by a ridge, so it's going to be drier. We then get out there beyond that and take a look. Saturday this weekend, that's when a front finally clears out ahead of this trough of low pressure, finally comes through us bringing in some rain. Then after it, watch this. The jet stream cuts off to a whole northern tier, and there's a pair right here and right here of lows. And those two lows are going to be critical to delivering rain to two key areas, one here and one over us. Now listen, if this low sags a bit, gets farther to the south, then we're going to see a whole lot better chance for parts of Georgia, North and South Carolina for rain. As it stands, it's more of I'd say it's hitting more mid-Atlantic, but we're going to watch it nonetheless. Because as we get out there farther, there's our true high over low block that evolves out of the omega block. And this is what's going on. The atmosphere is losing speed. It's losing momentum. And it loves to get blocked up when that occurs. So we need to assess what this is going to mean, because for most of the next 10 days before that happens, the chance of us staying under a half inch is 50 to 60% in these areas. The wet conditions are here. Look, here's the chance of going over 2 inches. Very wet there, more wet into the northeast. So we're on the drier side of this pattern until it evolves, 10 days from now. So where are we going in the near term? Well, we've got flood watches out here. And I'm talking major rainfall hitting an area that just saw 10 times its normal rainfall right in through this area. Take a look at it. Severe storm risk here today. Isolated storms along the sea breeze there. Then we come over to tomorrow. Where is it? Red River Valley. White River. We're moving over toward the Mississippi. So what we need to see is why all the action's here. The Gulf is open and shoving moisture repeatedly throughout the day, today through tomorrow and into Thursday in this area. I played that really fast, but just take a look at this. We're adding up a lot of rainfall. That's in the southern plains. Come over to the southeast, and this is what our package looks like in terms of moisture. Maybe some storms getting into North Carolina as we get into Wednesday afternoon and evening. But that big dominant subtropical high means outside of convection popping on the sea breeze, we're not looking at a whole lot in terms of moisture. In fact, if you want to see the total precipitation, it looks like this. Can you see the little storms popping here? And then we have this coming Wednesday. That's about it. Dominant ridge is influencing things. So to look out there longer term, I got to switch models. We're going to go over to the European model now. And as we play it forward, what are we looking for here? Well, first of all, the European model also has tonight the storms in this area. And then look, Wednesday, there it is, has the storms coming through here as well. There's Wednesday afternoon and evening. See them? But then the real push isn't Friday. It's here. It's Saturday. Ready? Saturday morning, afternoon, evening. There's our chance of storms. Now, why? This high pressure cell comes diving in with a front that shoves that high pressure cell off the map. And that's what finally makes it happen. We've kicked the Bermuda high out. Now after this, that front clears and we go into Sunday, Monday, Tuesday with not much going on. But this is where our pair of lows begin to show up. The first push of moisture is more mid-Atlantic, like I said. But this is Monday of next week. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Watch the evolution of the high over low block. There it is. Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I mean, that's when we're going to start to see our best chances of moisture coming back. It's 8, 9, 10 days away from now. All right, so what do we do with that? Well, let's look at a couple things here. In fact, I'm going to switch the view, if you don't mind, real quick, from Conus to southeast. And let's just add up the precip. Now, you watch this in time with me. Okay, through today into tomorrow. There we go. There's our scattered storms into tomorrow night, Wednesday night. There they are. We go through the rest of the week. Now, here it is. That's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's the first front. Told you it's not a lot of precip, but there's some. Then we wait. All the moisture adds up here in the mid-Atlantic, Tuesday, Wednesday. The cutoff low develops the 7th. It envelops the southeast 8th, 9th, 10th. See that? That's when the rain starts to come in there. So we're looking at sporadic rainfall until we get this low in place. Now, beyond that, out there into week 2, remember, you've got one low here, another one there. And so the pattern's kind of coming around, big ridge, cut off to the south. Very dry here. We're going to rapidly plant a corn crop in May across the I-states, the Mississippi Valley, the Ohio Valley. Very, very rapid planting. But we're going to possibly see some wetter conditions. Again, it's mostly coming 10, 11, 12 days from now. Flooding in the southern plains, though. Watch out for that. Cotton, corn, soybeans, sorghum, milo, all these crops, wheat, very, very wet in this area. Temperature-wise, we're done with talking about frost. Don't have any risk there. And your high temperatures, a lot of 80s this week. Ready? Tuesday's highs 80s. Wednesday's mid to upper 80s. Thursday, mid 80s. Friday, mid to upper 80s. Saturday, Sunday, front comes through, knocks our temperatures back down to normal. But I just don't see any chance over the next few weeks of you having abnormal stretches of cooler weather. Your next 5 days look like that. Day 5 through 10 still looks pretty normal. And even when all that cloud cover might come in when the system drops, it still doesn't cool us off too much. So we're not struggling with temperatures. Okay, I wanted to get through that quick because I want to tell you where I think this is going. So all the rest of this is long range. And we're going to start with the newest updates from the CPC. They've got us warm May 10 through 23. They also can't shake these two lows with the big ridge here. And they're, I think, getting this forecast informed mainly by what's called the CFSV2 model. You see, look out there May 13th through the 19th. See wetter here, near normal there. Drier in the northern plains. You get out there May 20 through 26, we see wetter too. Now, the only model that doesn't agree with this is the new long-range Euro. And the new long-range European model is not keeping the wetter conditions in Georgia, North and South Carolina. But the new European model is very heavily biased to the next 10 to 12 days, which is why it doesn't show above average precip here. I'm tending to lean more toward the CFSV2 solution I just gave you and the new GFS extended. I buy this, but I think we're going to see more normal precipitation patterns for our early summer weather regime setting up over parts of the southeast. Now, I got to back that up with something. What's promoting this? What am I thinking about? Well, can I blame this on La Nina? Well, La Nina's faded. Can we talk about the Atlantic Ocean temperature? Sure. But you want to know why the European model's not giving us good signal? It's because its prediction of where the MJO is going to be is stuffed into null space. It's not picking up on that being a dominant factor, and as a result, the model's ability to see out their longer range tends to suffer because of that one thing, to be honest with you. So we start looking at other stuff. And this is where the discussion gets a bit nerdy but fun. This particular diagram shows us something called the vertical and zonal integral of atmospheric angular momentum. What does it mean? You look at the whole atmosphere and add up how well it's generally moving from the west to the east. Okay? Now what I want to focus on is right there and right here. That is in the subtropics, and this is encroaching on the mid-latitudes. What are these? These colors represent slower than normal flow. The time period goes back 90 days. So this was 90 days ago, and this is present. And here's what I'm going to tell you. The atmosphere is showing its cards that it's not having any trouble losing momentum. See, it's below average right now. Now, what in the world does that even mean? Well, this is what it means. I'm going to show you my analog years. I'm looking at 96, 99, 06, 08, 11, 12, and 17. In those years, these blues are not temperatures. This is where the atmosphere lost its speed. So the jet went way far to the north, came in through British Columbia, dove through Canada, and exited the northeast. And it tended to do this. Now again, these are winds, not pressure, not temperature, it's winds. But if you see this, if that is a stronger zonal wind and that is a weaker zonal wind, in between there's high pressure. Why? Because high pressure cells circulate like that. There was one there, there was one here, and the Bermuda high was way over there. Now, why does that matter? That matters because in these analog years, we tended to get this as the precipitation pattern. Now, listen to me very carefully here. This is the summary for June through August of 96, 99, 06, 08, 11, 12, 17. And here's what I'm thinking. In composite, the high pressure cell was there. But sometimes it moved over toward Montana, sometimes toward Minnesota, sometimes into Texas, sometimes it was over Nebraska. But when you look at all of them together, they tended to produce peripheral ridge-riding storms, which tended to hit the southeast. Now you're going, wait a minute, but Georgia and South Carolina are dry. I get it. I understand why you see that. That's because of a couple of these years put into the analog. I think, now listen, if I modified it, I think that this high pressure cell is more here or here this summer. And I'm going to make a case for that because this will have major implications on not only your summer precipitation pattern, but the following hurricane season. Now you might ask, well, how well are your analog models, or analog years doing right now? Remember earlier I said, hey, don't forget about this graphic. This is what was predicted using the analogs. Very wet in through here, drier in pockets of the southeast, mixed over North Carolina. You can make an argument that those years look very similar to this year. Overall, the pattern, not exactly, but similar. And I got some of these years from some of the best in the business, Colorado State University. I added my own into the mix, but Colorado State University puts out a hurricane season forecast. And in every category for this upcoming 2025 season, they are above the historical averages. But they are not as aggressive this year as they were a year ago. And the reason for that was a year ago in April, the ocean across the Atlantic was very hot and a La Nina was brewing. This year, it's backed off by more than 2 degrees across the Atlantic and the La Nina is fading. So what do we do with all of that? Let's stitch the whole narrative together and wrap this video up. Most forecast models look something like the CFSV2 does. INSO neutral through summer. And I think we should favor more of a return of weak La Nina by fall, not return of El Nino. Now, what does that mean? Well, if you take a look at the CFSV2 forecast, we're not going to look at the longer range. We're going to focus here May, June, July. It's drier western Corn Belt, wetter there. June, July, August. It's got some dryness in the plains western Corn Belt, but not for you. Now, I can't guarantee any of this, but it's a signal. And is that signal backed up by other forecasting centers? Well, let's go look. This is the newest update from the CPC, the Climate Prediction Center. May, June, July, wetter, drier. June, July, August, wetter, drier. Now, why? Why does it look like that? High pressure somewhere in that vicinity. And if the high pressure is going to sit right here, then the flow goes over the top. The Bermuda high is way off the coast. That's a terrible drawing. That's supposed to be an H, by the way. Let's try that again. And the flow is coming around like this. So it's not pumping into the middle part of the country. It's coming into the East Coast. That's June, July, August. Here's July, August, September. So if you notice, I've now shown you multiple models all predicting above average precip. Now, what is it really going to be? It's going to be hot and it's going to be stormy. What happens in summers that are hot and stormy? You got one guy in this county who's getting all the rain and the guy next to him in the next county over isn't. So don't look at this and just expect ubiquitous green, okay? It's going to be punctuated by our summer thunderstorm convective pattern, right? Temperatures, I told you it's going to be hot. Hotter than average, but very hot in the Great Basin. There is June, July, August, still warm. And then July, August, September. Now, that was 2 models. Let's go to a third. I'm going to give you 4. This is the one that baffles me. It is the European model. June, July, August, it's trying to bring back some warmer ocean here while La Nina dies over there. But I don't agree with this. All the warm water it's got here and there, I don't know why it's got it in those places. I think we should watch for cooling here. Now you're going, why, Eric? Well, if there's cooling in these two spots, guess where the ridge is? It's going to be there. If this stays warm, we've got a greater risk of drought here until the hurricane season comes in. So if these two areas go cool, it's Western Corn Belt issues. If they don't, then it's going to be the Southeast. Now you say, well, okay, what's baffling you about the model? This is what's baffling me about the model. Even with all that warm water that's off the northwest coast of the United States and Canada, it's doing this for June, July, August precipitation. It still has the wetter conditions. To me, that doesn't seem physically consistent. To me, this says the Bermuda high is going to be just shoving moisture into this area, leaving it out of the plains. And that may be the case. Globally, though, let's go look at it. There you go. There's the U.S. Indonesia wet, India wet, China wet, Black Sea dry. Is any other forecast model seeing that? Let's go have a look. This is the newest and the fourth one, July, August, September, from Columbia University. They've got Western Corn Belt drought, Northwest drought, Lower Mississippi River drought, not us. It's got dryness around the Black Sea, but not India, China, Indonesia. All right. That is what I'm basing everything off of. You've now seen the models. They're consistent. Even though the European model is a bit odd, there's some consistency there. You saw my analog years. And we know what's coming in the near term. And we're just going to sit here and let this kind of stew in our heads for another month as I watch it. Now, the next month, at the end of May, when I give you your next video, that will probably be the most critical video for summer. And then the one I give you in mid-July or the end of July is going to be the most critical for the hurricane season. So we're going to keep going forward, but this is what I've got so far. Take care. We'll talk next month. Thank you.